Have you ever asked yourself, why do I feel this way? Why am I so unhappy when nothing seems to be wrong? Why do I feel broken when life on the outside looks perfectly fine? You're not alone. In fact, most people walk around every day carrying an invisible burden, a quiet suffering they can't quite explain, a heaviness in the chest, a sense of unworthiness, an ache that no amount of success, love, or validation ever seems to fix. And the shocking truth? That pain, that constant anxiety, that inner war you keep fighting, it doesn't come from the world. It doesn't come from your past. And it doesn't come from other people. It comes from your mind. More specifically, from your thinking. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young man, brilliant, capable, and admired by everyone around him. But every night, he would lie awake staring at the ceiling, crippled by doubt. He thought, I'm not good enough. People only like me because I pretend to be confident. One day they'll all see the truth, that I'm a fraud. Day after day, he smiled in public, performed well at work, and seemed okay. But inside, he was crumbling. No one knew. Because how could they? He had everything, the job, the friends, the reputation. And yet, he felt like he was drowning in a sea of his own thoughts. Sound familiar? Now here's the twist. One day, he stumbled upon a simple sentence that would change everything. Don't believe everything you think. At first, he laughed. I am my thoughts, he said. My thoughts are me. How can I not believe them? But curiosity got the better of him, and as he sat in silence for the first time in months, just watching his thoughts pass like clouds, he noticed something. His thoughts weren't always true. They were loud, yes, convincing, absolutely. But true? Not even close. One moment his mind said, you're worthless. The next, you're too much. Then you'll never make it. And a few hours later, you're running out of time. Contradictory, chaotic, endless, and worst of all, automatic. No matter how hard he worked, how kind he was, or how much he achieved, his mind always found a way to twist the story into something painful. And that's when it hit him. The source of his suffering wasn't reality. It was the narrative his mind was constantly spinning. You see, the mind is a master storyteller. It takes a single moment, a rejection, a mistake, a silent stare, and builds an entire identity around it. You're not lovable. You always mess things up. No one really cares about you. And the worst part? You believe it. Because you've never been taught to question it. Because no one ever told you that just because you think something doesn't make it true. The mind isn't evil. It's not out to get you. It's just doing what it was programmed to do. Protect you. Predict danger. Prepare for pain. But in its attempt to keep you safe, your mind often creates a prison, one where you live in fear of the past or in constant dread of the future, one where you never feel good enough, no matter how much you do. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop believing your thoughts is the moment you start becoming free. Not because your problems vanish overnight, but because you begin to see them for what they really are. Just thoughts, just clouds, just passing stories. Not facts, not identities, not the truth. So what does this mean for you? It means your suffering isn't a life sentence. It's not a reflection of your worth, and it's definitely not something broken inside of you. It's simply the result of believing in a storm of thoughts that were never yours to hold in the first place. And the best part? You don't need to fix them. You don't need to think positively. You don't even need to fight them. All you have to do is see them, notice them, question them, and let them pass like clouds in the sky. Because beneath all those thoughts, there's you, still, quiet, unshaken, a presence, a peace, a knowing that you were never broken to begin with. That is where healing begins. Not in controlling your thoughts, but in no longer believing everything you think. What if I told you that voice in your head, the one narrating your every move, criticizing every mistake, replaying every awkward moment, isn't you? What if I told you that you are not your thoughts? At first, that idea sounds strange, maybe even impossible. After all, our thoughts are constant. They've been with us since childhood. They sound like us. They feel like us. But here's the truth most people never discover. You are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. Let's make this real. Close your eyes for just a second. Seriously, do it now. Now silently say the words in your mind. I'm not good enough. I always mess up. No one really loves me. Pause. Who just said that? And more importantly, who heard it. That's the secret the book reveals. There is a space between you and your thoughts, and in that space is your freedom. You see, most of us spend our lives trapped inside our minds, running on autopilot. We believe every thought that pops up because we've been conditioned to. We think if I thought it, it must be true. If I feel it, it must be real. But that's not how it works. Not every thought is the truth. Not every emotion reflects reality. They are just mental habits, formed through years of repetition, fear, and belief. Here's a powerful way to see it. Imagine your thoughts like a radio station. It plays 24/7. Sometimes it's cheerful, sometimes it's dark. Sometimes it motivates you, sometimes it tears you down. But here's the thing. Just because the radio is playing doesn't mean you have to dance to every song. You can simply listen, or better yet, change the station. You are the one holding the remote. Now, this doesn't mean thoughts are bad. They're not. Thoughts can be useful for planning, solving, learning. But the problem arises when we identify with them, when we believe every passing thought defines who we are. You are not your doubts. You are not your fears. You are not the mistakes you made in the past. You are the awareness behind all of it, the quiet presence that sees everything without judgment. Let me tell you about Maya. She was a high achiever, always had to be the best, the top student, the perfect daughter, the flawless friend. But inside, she felt like she was never enough. Every time she succeeded, her mind would whisper, "It's not that great. You could have done better." Don't let people see the real you. One day, exhausted from the noise, she sat in silence and asked herself, "Why do I always feel like I'm failing, even when I'm doing well?" And in that silence, she saw it. The voice in her head, the one always criticizing, wasn't her. It was just a script. A pattern. A story passed down from childhood, fear, and years of perfectionism. And for the first time, she realized, if I can hear the voice, then I'm not the voice. That realization changed everything. She stopped arguing with her thoughts. She stopped trying to be perfect. She stopped chasing validation. And slowly, she began to live from a different place, from presence, from truth, from the calm, grounded awareness that had been there all along. That's what this book teaches you. Not how to force yourself to think positively. Not how you were simply too close to your thoughts to see the truth. You're not broken. You're just not here. Let me ask you something. Where are you right now? I don't mean your physical body, sitting in a chair, lying in bed, scrolling through your phone. I mean your mind, your attention, your awareness, because for most people, it's not here. It's stuck in the past, reliving old wounds and regrets, or it's racing ahead into the future, imagining worst-case scenarios, chasing approval, or fearing the unknown. Very few people are actually present, and that's the problem. Here's a hard truth most of us never realize. Suffering doesn't exist in the present. It only exists in the stories we tell about the past, or the fears we project into the future. If you really pay attention, you'll see this for yourself. Right now, in this exact moment, you're breathing. You're alive. You're safe. There's no actual threat. No one yelling. No danger in the room. And yet, your body is tense. Your heart is racing. Your mind is spinning. Why? Because you're not here. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Rachel. Rachel had a good job, a loving partner, friends who checked in. On the outside, everything looked fine. But on the inside, she felt like she was constantly running from something she couldn't name. She'd wake up feeling anxious before anything even happened. She'd rehearse conversations that hadn't taken place. She'd relive things she said 5 years ago as if they just happened. And when she sat down to meditate, just to try and breathe, her mind would scream, "You're wasting time. You should be doing something productive. This is pointless." But she kept showing up to that quiet space, day by day, breath by breath. Until one morning, something shifted. She was sitting on her porch, eyes closed, listening to the birds, and suddenly she felt it, a soft, wordless peace she hadn't known in years. No thoughts, no tension, just being. And tears came, not from sadness, but from the realization that she had been missing her own life, not because it was broken, but because she was never fully there. That's what the book teaches us. We're not suffering because life is too hard. We're suffering because we're living in our heads. in thoughts, projections, worries, and memories, instead of the only place where peace truly exists, the present moment. Your mind will always try to pull you out of the now. It will say, what if it all goes wrong? Remember what happened last time? You're not doing enough. But that's just noise. The truth is, when you fully drop into this moment, without resistance, without needing it to be different, you discover something miraculous. You're okay. Not because your life is perfect, not because your goals are all reached, but because the present moment itself is always peaceful, if you allow it. Think about it when you watch a sunset, fully immersed in the colors, when you hold a loved one and feel their heartbeat, when you laugh, that deep, uncontrollable laugh that comes from the soul. In those moments, you're not thinking, you're experiencing. You're not in your head, you're in your heart. And that's why those moments feel so free, because in those seconds, you remember who you are underneath the mental noise. So how do you return to the present? You don't have to force anything. Just start by noticing. Notice your breath. Notice the sounds around you. Notice the feeling of your feet on the floor. And most importantly, notice when your mind drifts and gently bring it back. You don't need to control your thoughts. You just need to remember that you are the one observing them. And the more you practice coming home to this moment, the more peace becomes your natural state, not something you chase. Because the truth is, you've never needed to be fixed. You've only needed to come home. And home isn't a place out there. It's not a person. It's not some future version of yourself. Home is here. Home is now. And it's been waiting for you all along. You don't need to control everything. You just need to let go. Let's talk about something we all crave. Control. We want control over our lives. Our thoughts, our emotions, our future, even other people. We think that if we just try harder, manage every detail, and predict every outcome, we'll finally feel safe, finally feel free. But what if I told you, freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from letting go. This might sound backward at first. We've been trained since childhood to hold on tightly, to expectations, to identities, to outcomes. Work harder, push through, don't quit. But sometimes, trying harder is the very thing keeping us stuck. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who spent years climbing the ladder of success. He worked tirelessly. He controlled everything. His schedule, his diet, his social image, even the way he smiled in photos. To the outside world, he had it all. Wealth, reputation, influence. But inside, he felt like a prisoner in his own life. He couldn't sleep without checking his emails 5 times. He couldn't enjoy a vacation without thinking of the next project. He couldn't look in the mirror without feeling like a fraud. One night, sitting alone in his hotel room after another successful event, something inside him snapped. Why am I so exhausted when I've done everything right? And then a deeper voice, a whisper from somewhere he hadn't heard in years, spoke up. Because you've built your life around control and forgotten how to live. That was his wake-up call. He started small, taking walks without his phone, eating a meal without multitasking, sitting in silence without needing to fix anything. And slowly, something shifted. He realized that control hadn't made him free. It had made him anxious, exhausted, lonely. What he really needed was to let go. That's the lesson in this chapter of the book. We suffer because we try to control what was never ours to control. We try to control people, how they see us, how they behave, how they respond. We try to control the future, planning every step, preparing for every possible disaster. We even try to control our emotions, suppressing what we feel, faking positivity, denying our pain. And in doing so, we exhaust ourselves chasing an illusion. Because the truth is, control is fear wearing a mask. Letting go is what trust looks like. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean being careless or passive. It means releasing the attachment to how things should be. It means allowing life to unfold. Instead of strangling it into your version of perfection. Here's the truth that hits deep. Most of the things we try to control were never in our hands to begin with. You can't control what other people think of you. You can't control whether the world loves you or hates you. You can't control every twist in your story. But you can choose how you relate to all of it. You can respond instead of react. You can observe instead of obsess. You can breathe instead of panic. That's the power of letting go. It doesn't change the world, changes you. Let me ask you a question. What have you been gripping so tightly that it's suffocating you? A relationship, a goal, a version of yourself you feel you have to live up to? What if you loosened your grip just a little? What if you trusted that maybe, just maybe, letting go isn't losing control, but gaining peace? A young woman once said, "I spent years trying to be perfect, and all it did was make me tired and disconnected from myself. One day I let go. I stopped trying to prove, fix, and force, and for the first time, I could breathe again." That's the magic of surrender. It's not dramatic. It doesn't need fireworks or fanfare. It's quiet, still, like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. In the book, Joseph Nguyen reminds us, you don't have to fight your thoughts. You don't have to fix your mind. You just have to stop believing it's all up to you. That's the great relief. You were never meant to carry the weight of the world. You were only meant to walk through it awake, present, and free. So here's the invitation. Let go of the pressure, of the noise, of the identity that says you always have to be in control. Because the moment you let go, you make space for something greater to enter. Peace, presence, and the truth of who you really are. And that, my friend, is when life finally starts to feel like life. The truth you've been waiting to hear. You are not broken. There's a lie we've all believed at some point in our lives. A quiet, persistent voice that says, there's something wrong with you. You feel anxious? Something must be wrong. You feel unmotivated? You're lazy. You feel sad for no reason? You must be broken inside. This voice doesn't yell, it whispers, softly, repeatedly, until you stop questioning it. And one day, you don't just hear it anymore. You believe it. You live by it. You wear it like a label on your skin. Not enough. Damaged. Too much. Never going to get better. But here's what this book gently but powerfully reminds us. You were never broken. You just believed a thought that wasn't true. Let me tell you about a boy named Caleb. When he was 8, his teacher told him in front of the whole class that he talked too much and wasn't focused. That moment, though brief, planted a seed in his mind. Over the years, every time Caleb raised his hand and wasn't called on, every time someone rolled their eyes, every time he didn't get the grade he hoped for, the voice grew louder. You're not smart. You're annoying. You'll never be enough. By the time he was in college, he stopped speaking up altogether. He avoided eye contact. He stayed quiet, even when he had something brilliant to say. Why? Because of a belief formed from a single moment and never questioned again. This is how most of our suffering begins. A moment happens. We give it meaning. Then we live inside that meaning as if it's who we are. But what if Caleb had paused, even once, to ask, is that thought true? Just because one person said I'm too much, does that make it fact? What if the voice in my head is wrong? Everything could have changed, and eventually, it did. Years later, Caleb stumbled upon Don't Believe Everything You Think in a bookstore. It almost felt like the title reached out and grabbed him. He read one page, then another, and another. And by the end of the week, he wasn't the same person anymore. Not because he fixed himself, but because he finally realized there was nothing wrong with him to begin with. He had simply been hypnotized by his thoughts, never knowing he had the power to question them. That's the core message of this book. You don't have to heal because you're broken. You have to wake up to the truth that you were never broken at all. Your anxiety, not a flaw, but a misunderstood signal. Your sadness, not weakness, but a call for gentleness. Your racing thoughts, not proof of failure, but just mental weather passing through. None of it means you're damaged. It only means you've been believing thoughts that don't belong to you. A child walks into a room, excited to share a drawing they made, but the adult is distracted, frustrated, and says, "Not now." In that instant, the child doesn't think, "They're just busy. It's not about me." No, the child thinks, "I'm not important. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't speak up." And from that moment on, that child starts building their identity around a lie. Now multiply that by hundreds of moments. Thousands of small wounds. Each one forming a thought. Each thought forming a belief. And before long, you forget who you truly are. But here's the truth. You were always worthy. You were always enough. You just forgot. This book isn't about becoming anything. It's about unlearning everything that made you doubt yourself in the first place. You are not your trauma. You are not your fears. You are not your past. You are not the voice that tells you you're too much or not enough. You are the awareness that sees it all, gently, patiently, lovingly, and knows that none of it defines your essence. Let me ask you something personal. What thought have you been carrying for years? That isn't true. Is it, I'm a burden? I'll never be loved? I don't deserve happiness. Now ask yourself, where did that thought come from? Can I be absolutely sure it's true? Who would I be if I stopped believing it, just for a moment? What you'll discover isn't a better version of you. It's the real you, the you that existed before the world told you who to be. Joseph Nguyen doesn't offer you techniques to fake positivity. He offers you something far more powerful, permission to let go of what was never real. And that is true freedom. So if you've ever felt like you're too broken to heal, too damaged to be loved, too lost to be found, remember this: you are not your thoughts. You are not your pain. You are the one who sees it, and you are whole. You've always been whole. The journey is not about becoming. It's about remembering. Remembering who you were before the fear, before the doubt, before the story. And that is the beginning of peace. You don't need to find yourself. You just need to wake up. You've probably heard people say things like, I'm trying to find myself. I need to figure out who I really am. I'm on a journey of self-discovery. It sounds reasonable, even noble, but here's something most people never realize. You don't need to find yourself. You only need to wake up from everything you're not. From a young age, you were taught how to be good, based on someone else's standards. You were praised for being obedient, criticized for showing too many emotions, rewarded when you achieved, ignored when you failed. Slowly, you learned to perform for approval, and piece by piece, you lost touch with your true self. You began wearing masks: the strong one, the smart one, the happy one. Then one day you look in the mirror and don't even recognize who you are anymore. But this book doesn't ask you to create a better version of yourself. It doesn't ask you to fix anything, because there is nothing broken. You were never lost. You were just covered up. Covered by fear, by limiting beliefs, by thoughts repeated so many times that you began to think they were you. But the truth is, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness watching those thoughts. Here's an image to help you see this more clearly. Imagine you're watching a movie. There's a sad scene. Someone loses everything. You feel it. Tears fall, you're moved. But no matter how real the emotion feels, you still know you're not the character in the movie. You're the one watching. It's the same with your mind. Anxiety, self-doubt, shame, they're the movie. You are the audience, you can feel them, but you're not defined by them. That's the turning point. When you realize you are the observer, not the role you've been playing. It's like waking up from a dream and saying, wow, I was caught in a story, but now I'm awake. Let me tell you a story about Anne. Anne was a doer, always busy, always chasing the next goal, always feeling like she wasn't enough. The moment she slowed down, her mind would whisper, you're useless. You're falling behind. You haven't achieved anything. Then one day, she read this line. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one who hears it. It stopped her in her tracks. She sat down, didn't try to fix, didn't try to resist. She simply listened to the mental noise like it was coming from someone else. And suddenly she realized, if I can hear it, I am not it. From that day on, Anne stopped trying to silence her mind. Instead, she learned how to watch it, like clouds passing through the sky. Thoughts came and went. Emotions rose and faded. Everything was temporary, except one thing: her awareness. Still, quiet, unmoved. This is what don't believe everything you think is really about. It doesn't ask you to fight your mind. It invites you to wake up. Wake up from the story that says you're not enough, the voice that tells you you're weak, the fear that keeps you small. Wake up from illusion and return to presence. Because the present moment, this exact moment, is gentle. Right now, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be better, faster, stronger. You just have to be here. Take a deep breath. Feel your heartbeat. Listen, not to the fear, but to the truth that's been waiting inside you. You were never incomplete. You were never lost. You just forgot. And remembering is the beginning of peace. Not because you've reached perfection, Not because you've eliminated pain, but because you've finally woken up from the story and whispered to yourself, I don't need to become anyone. I've always been me. Your mind will never give you peace, but you don't need it to. Let me ask you a difficult question. What if peace was never meant to be found in your mind? What if the very place you've been searching, inside thoughts, logic, planning, analyzing, was never where peace lived? That's the painful truth so many people realize too late. The mind cannot give you peace, because the mind itself is the creator of the conflict. You see, the mind is brilliant at solving problems, but it's also the one that creates them. It tells you you're not doing enough. What if something goes wrong tomorrow? People are judging you, and the moment you try to fix those thoughts, you fall deeper into the trap. Why? Because trying to think your way out of overthinking is like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Let me tell you about James. James was a thinker, always up in his head. He was proud of his intelligence, his logic, his rational approach to life. But inside, he was drowning. He couldn't stop the constant dialogue in his mind. What if I fail? What did she mean by that? Why can't I just relax like other people? So he did what most of us do. He looked for answers. Podcasts, therapy, productivity hacks, mindset coaching. He even tried positive affirmations like, I am calm, I am peaceful, I am enough. But no matter how many times he repeated those words, his mind didn't believe them. Because deep down, there was still a war happening between what he thought he should feel and what he actually felt. Then one day, he read a sentence that stopped him cold. Peace doesn't come from having the right thoughts. It comes from not needing thoughts at all. He read it again, and again, and something shifted. He realized he'd been chasing stillness through noise, trying to reach silence through words. He was asking the mind to give him something it wasn't built to provide. And in that moment, he did something radical. He stopped fighting. He sat down, closed his eyes, listened to the chaos in his head, and then, like clouds parting after a storm, he noticed something he'd never paid attention to before. The space behind the thoughts. Not a voice, not a mantra, just space. Quiet, steady, free. This is what don't believe everything you think is guiding us toward. Not better thinking, not more positive thinking, but less thinking. Not because thought is evil, but because who you are is not thought at all. You are the awareness before the thought. You are the presence beneath the noise. You are the space between the words. That's why you don't need to fix your mind. Let it do what it does. Chatter, worry, plan, forget. But you don't have to follow it. You don't have to believe the next anxious prediction. You don't have to cling to the next judgment. You don't even have to resist. You just need to watching. You remember the truth. The real you is already peaceful. The mind just forgot. Imagine standing beside a busy road. Cars zoom by, some loud, some dangerous, some beautiful. That's your mind, non-stop traffic. Now imagine trying to chase every single car, shouting, "Wait, I need to understand you. No, come back, I don't like what you said." That's what most of us do with our thoughts. But peace? Peace is sitting calmly on the side of the road, watching the traffic pass, knowing that you are not the cars. You are the sky. You are the stillness behind it all. So if your mind is noisy, that's okay. It was never meant to be the source of your peace. And if you feel tired from trying to think your way into happiness, then maybe now is the time to stop, to pause, to breathe, and to remember, peace isn't something you find. It's something you return to when you stop believing every thought that pulls you away. You don't need to escape the cage. You just need to realize the door was always open. For most of your life, you've probably believed that freedom is something you earn. You work harder, you heal more, you learn enough, you fix what's broken. And then, one day, maybe, you'll finally be free. Free from fear, free from sadness, free from the voice in your head that never seems to shut up. But what if you've been free this whole time? Let me tell you a story. There was once a bird who lived in a golden cage. She had food, water, a roof over her head, but every day she stared through the bars and dreamed of flying. She longed for the sky, for the wind, for the freedom she knew existed somewhere, out there. So she tried everything. She flapped harder, she studied other birds, she even prayed for the day someone would open the cage. Years passed, And then one day, out of desperation, she stopped struggling. She stood still, looked closer, and saw something she had never noticed before. The door was never locked. It had been open the whole time. That's what this book has been showing you, gently, page by page. The door is open. It always was. You don't need to become someone new. You don't need to escape your mind. You don't even need to wait for peace. Because everything you've been searching for, peace, clarity, freedom, joy, is already here, right now, in this moment. But why don't we feel it? Because we're too busy looking in the wrong place. We search in the mind, the same mind that created the confusion. We search in the past, trying to undo what's already done. We search in the future, hoping that someday things will finally make sense. But the truth is much simpler. Freedom is not found through effort. It's found through awareness. When you stop believing everything you think, when you stop chasing the next solution, the next fix, the next breakthrough, you create space, stillness, presence. And in that space, you begin to remember something ancient, something sacred. Who you truly are was never broken, never lost, never separate. This is not about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about returning to the you that existed before the fear, before the shame, before the world told you who you had to be. It's about seeing clearly, not with your eyes, but with your soul. The cage was an illusion. The prison was made of thoughts, and the key was awareness all along. So here's the truth the book gently leaves you with. You don't need to keep searching. You don't need to keep fixing, forcing, or proving. You can just stop. Breathe. Be here. Because here, in this exact, imperfect, miraculous moment, you are already enough. You are already free. You always were. Thank you for walking this journey. And if this story opened something in you, if it helped you see yourself a little more clearly, then maybe, just maybe, it was never about becoming free. It was about remembering that you were free all along. If this story touched something in you, if it reminded you of who you truly are beneath the noise, then take a deep breath and don't rush away just yet. Maybe share this moment with someone who's still searching. And if you'd like to keep walking this journey together, tap subscribe and let's explore more truths that set us free. And if you feel called to read the full book, Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen, you'll find the affiliate link in the description below. It's not just a book, it's a mirror to your soul. Thank you for being here. You're not alone, and you're more free than you know.